With GoXLR, there is a concept of a absolute volume and a relative volume source. When you set up GoXLR, the way that it's recommended to be in the different YouTube videos or in the going get started guide, you passively set up the absolute volume correctly. However, we've noticed that a lot of people will approach it in a slightly different way, which is totally fine, but it's causing some people to have some volume issues with different sources. So that's what this specific video is trying to address, is to help you set your absolute volume source correctly so that when you are streaming, chatting with friends, or recording samples, nothing comes out too loud or too quiet. The issue for this almost always comes when people say, my voice is too loud in my headphones, so I turned it down and now my stream is quiet, or something else. By doing it this way, setting your absolute volume first and then setting your relative volume in your headphones, you're going to essentially resolve the issue. So let's start by setting our absolute volume. There's a few steps that we need to do before we can do that. The first thing is, wow, cool. The first thing is to hop into system mic setup and set our gain properly. With gain, you want to be on usually in like the lower end of good. If you're a dynamic speaker, you typically want to be on the lower end of good. Whereas if you're more of a monotone speaker, you can typically be a little bit higher. I'm a a little bit more dynamic. I like to sit in the lower part of low. I use a Heil PR40, which I think sounds really good here. There are some mics that don't really push as well unless you ride them higher up on the mic meter. So there's a lot of variables there, but as long as you're kind of in the area, you should be fine. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your volume slider for your microphone is at 100%. This is super important, and this is one of the things where GoXLR takes away something that exists in the traditional kind of audio world, but for the purposes of streaming, typically doesn't need to exist. So you always want your volume slider up at 100%. Whenever you're speaking at your top volume. Sometimes you may decide to duck it to whatever, for like a cut scene and you want your voice to be a little bit quieter there, or you're getting really close into the microphone and whispering or whatever. That's totally fine, but for generally, you always want it at 100% when you're doing your normal streaming thing. Now that we've done that, we've set the gain properly, and we've turned the microphone slider up to 100%. Let's see how we're doing. So in OBS, I'm looking at my absolute volume level right here down below. This is essentially telling me how loud I am without using any other filters or gains outside of GoXLR. And it's important to set this level correctly first. Ideally, you want to be peaking in kind of the -10 to -5 range. OBS subconsciously says green good, yellow okay, red bad. What they actually say on their website is yellow good for your voice, green good for your game and your game and music volume. But in actuality, you want to be peaking actually up in here in the -10 to -5. You kind of notice that I can kind of get up there a little bit. I might be a tad low. So there's a couple of things that I can do. I can go back to the gain setup and I can raise the gain a little bit, but maybe you're on the higher end of good already, or maybe your microphone sounds better a little bit lower. There's another thing that you can do, and that's using the makeup gain on the compressor. So I hop over here into the compressor and I'm going to just pop up the makeup gain. I was at 7. I'm going to go to 9 dB. So now that I go to 9 dB, there I am. I'm kind of getting right in that right range. I'm using a really hot compressor. So if I go louder, it gets up a little bit higher, but relatively stays right where it needs to be. Now I've set my absolute volume level. So I know that in Windows, all of my sources that are using my microphone are sending it at the right level. Now with GoXLR, you don't manage multiple mixes. The idea is you hear what your stream hears, or in the routing table, you can choose to not hear a source, but you can't have like, I want it 25% in my headphones and 50% on stream. That's just not something that GoXLR sets out to do. We've had lots of conversations about that on the Discord though, and who knows what would happen? Who knows what might happen? Besides that though, there's no real way to manage the loudness of other things in comparison to your stream or your chat. So we need to make sure that the thing that is the most important is the loudest, and you set that volume from there. So right now, let's hop into the mixer tab, and you're going to probably go, you know what, John, my voice is blaring in my headphones right now because of this. And that's because, well, your headphones, the headphone port has an amp on it, and it's designed to power some really powerful headphones. So it's overall, the loudness is going to be loud. But what people do instead is they turn down their mic volume, they turn down their game volume and Discord volume, and keep the phone's volume at 100%. And that's where the issue arises. So all you do now that we know this absolute volume is good in OBS is take this phone volume and slide it to wherever it is. So where your voice is at its loudest, what you want to be the loudest thing in your headphones. It's what you would want. It's the loudest thing you want in your headphones ever. So at 100%, that's what you want it. So for me, I have some pretty high impedance headphones. So I have my volume up at 100%. But you'll notice here, let's see if I can get both of these. I should be able to get both of these in here. So you'll notice here, though, as I change my headphone volume, it has nothing to do with the absolute volume that's being sent through my computer. This is just for you. So that's why you set this first and then you set this second. In the end, this is going to make sure that your streams are the right loudness, you're getting the right mix in your headphones, and ultimately, everything should sound better because of it. So I'm going to post this video. I'm going to keep it unlisted, but feel free to share it around in the Discord and anywhere else. And I hope this helped. If there's anything that you didn't feel like I covered, just let me know, and we'll tweak it as we need to.